Money, power, and sex. That's what this case is about. The defendant, Lori Vallow Daybell, used money, power, and sex, or the promise of those things, to get what she wanted.
Week one of the Lori Vallow Daybell murder trial has wrapped up, and the question is, what has been some of the most damaging pieces of evidence against her? That's the question. We break it down. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Week one of the Lori Vallow Daybell trial has wrapped up, and this jury has seen a lot, from truly graphic and disturbing autopsy photos to an introduction of just a wild story with a whole cast of players. It's a lot to take in for these 12 jurors and 6 alternates, who, by the way, by all accounts, have not really heard anything about this before. They're hearing all about this for the first time. But the question is, how is the prosecution doing at showing that Lori Vallow Daybell committed these crimes? What has been some of the most damaging evidence against her so far? Remember, this is the 49-year-old Doomsday mother on trial for first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder charges in connection with the deaths of her children, 7-year-old J.J. Vallow, 16-year-old Tylee Ryan. Their bodies were found on the property of her current husband, Chad Daybell. He actually faces similar charges. He's going to be tried separately at a later date. But Lori Vallow Daybell, her troubles don't end there, because she is also charged with conspiracy to commit murder in the death of Chad's now deceased wife, Tammy Daybell. You see, originally, Tammy's death was thought to be from natural causes, that she died in her sleep. But when the kids' bodies were found and her body was exhumed, authorities realized that there was something else going on. And that is when prosecutors explained this week that she actually died from asphyxiation at the hands of another. So, like I said, the jury heard a lot in week one, but we always have to remember, what is the end in mind? What did the prosecution present this week that was the most damaging pieces of evidence against the defendant, Lori Vallow Daybell, or arguably the most damaging pieces of evidence? Well, that's what we want to get into right now. We want to be clear about what the prosecution is trying to prove. For conspiracy charges with respect to the death of the children and Tammy, prosecutors are presenting the case that Lori entered into an agreement to kill these people, and either her or one of the participants of this agreement took overt steps in furtherance of this agreement. And we know that prosecutors allege that Chad Daybell and Lori's deceased brother, Alex Cox, have been tied into this pact. So let's keep that in mind. Now, for the murder charges, it's not that the prosecution needs to prove that Lori actually carried out the killings herself, or even that she was present. In fact, I think there's strong evidence to suggest that Alex Cox is the one who carried out the killings. But as long as Lori was a direct principal, then she could be found guilty. Meaning, as long as she aided and abetted, advised and encouraged, or even compelled another to carry this out, that's how you get to the murder. And prosecutors say that Lori did all of this to not only maintain a relationship with Chad Daybell, with whom she began an affair, but to reap the proceeds of Social Security and insurance benefits. And Lori and her husband, Chad, justified their actions through their seemingly warped, extreme religious beliefs, seeing their victims as evil spirits and part of the darkness. That's what's been alleged by the prosecution. Okay, so some of the most damaging evidence, week one, arguably came from Melanie Gibb, Lori Vallow Daybell's former best friend. Definitely an emphasis on former, because this is somebody who has previously provided testimony against Lori. And Melanie would testify about how Lori, through her relationship with Chad, developed these very extreme beliefs. And there was a light and dark scale of people. There was a talk of zombies, casting out dark spirits. Listen to Melanie Gibb describe how Lori saw the kids and Tammy Daybell.
Were you ever told, with regard to Tylee being dark, did Lori ever tell you whether or not an evil spirit had entered Tylee?
Yes.
Do you recall approximately when that would have been?
It was sometime between probably February or March to June, somewhere. I believe when she was in Texas, maybe she shared with me when she was in Texas, which You probably can recall better when she was in Texas than I can, but it's probably like in May or April, whenever she was there. That's what it feels like. That's what it was.
Do you recall approximately when, well, actually, let me back up. Did she ever tell you if JJ was taken over or possessed by an evil spirit?
Yes, she did.
And do you recall approximately when that would have been?
Sorry, I'm getting my was it September 2019? Is that when I was? Yeah, September. September.
In 2019?
Yeah.
And was that the first time you'd heard of JJ being possessed?
Yes.
And you indicated previously, I believe, that Lori had talked about how both Charles and Tammy were supposed to pass away.
Correct.
Do you know what she told you regarding Tammy passing away?
She learned from Chad that he knew years ago that she would be passing away, early in her life.
So let's be clear about something. There is no smoking gun in this case. Not necessarily. There's no audio recording of Lori and her brother and Chad saying they're going to kill everyone. There's no videotape of her killing anyone. So far, there's really no physical forensic data tying her to the crimes. This is very much a circumstantial evidence case. But what prosecutors are doing is creating a narrative. They're showing that through Lori's comments and actions and the questionable timeline of events, the sequence of events like marrying Chad Daybell 2 weeks after his wife's untimely death, that is how they say that Lori was an active participant in all of this. That shows that she knew what was going on, that there was a plot to kill and she was a part of it. And here, these alleged comments that she knew Tammy was going to die and that she saw her children as dark beings, it all goes towards that. And speaking of problematic comments, this is the truly damaging piece of testimony from Melanie Gibb. She testified that she never saw JJ again after the night of September 22nd, 2019, and how basically Lori would call her up and not only lie about JJ's whereabouts, but asked her to lie for her to police.
Do you recall any specific times that Chad contacted you?
Yes. It seemed like it was a few days in November before Thanksgiving, and he called me when I was in Utah. And he told me that the Rexburg police would be calling to not answer the phone.
Did he expand on that as to why he didn't want you to answer the phone?
Well, I had to ask him a few questions.
And what did he tell you?
He said that the police were questioning at Lori's apartment where JJ was. And then I asked him, I said, he's not with Kay? And he said, no, he's not. And he had a nervous voice, and I asked him if he was, and he said yes. And he told me that Lori will be contacting me shortly after that.
And you say you asked Chad if JJ was with Kay.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you ask him that?
Because that's what I was told. That's where he went. So why would Kay be looking for him if Kay had JJ?
Do you recall who told you that he was with Kay?
Lori did.
And going forward to the date that Chad called and asked you not to speak with law enforcement, did Lori in fact reach out to you?
She did.
What did she say?
She said that the police had come by, and she told the police that I had JJ. She told me to go to she told the police that I took JJ to a movie called Frozen, I believe, and just take random pictures of kids running around at the movie theater.
Was JJ with you?
No.
Did law enforcement try to reach out to you?
They did.
Did you pick up or respond to them initially?
Not initially.
And why did you not respond to them initially?
I wasn't sure what in the world to do.
Had Lori told you anything previously regarding law enforcement?
I'm not sure at this point when she shared with me, but she told me that they were dark and that they were after her, like Satan was after her with the other dark entities that they talked about. So they had become, they call them dark translated beings, I believe.
So the question becomes, let's assume Lori's innocent. Okay, let's assume she's innocent. Why would an innocent person ask her friend to lie to police for her about the whereabouts of her would-be dead son? That's a problem for Lori Vallow Daybell, in my opinion. Now, she can make the argument that she was having problems with the Woodcocks. These are JJ's grandparents. But again, that sequence of events, knowing what we know now about what happened to these kids, that is not great for her. Asking Melanie to lie to police, and there's evidence that Lori Vallow Daybell lied to police herself about what was going on. That in the law we call consciousness of guilt. You lie, you mislead because you are covering up your crimes. So it becomes difficult for her to suggest that she didn't know what was going on. Now let's get into another piece of arguably damaging testimony from Lori Vallow Daybell that the jury heard this week. And that is when a phone call was introduced between Melanie Gibb and Chad and Lori. Gibb actually secretly recorded it, and she basically confronts the couple on where JJ is after he goes missing. And as you'll see, Lori puts the blame on Kay Woodcock, JJ's grandmother. But listen to how eerie this is.
How are you guys? Okay, how are you doing, babe? I'm doing pretty good, thanks. I was wondering, where are you guys?
We're just hanging out.
Hanging out? Are you in Idaho?
We're in Idaho.
Okay. I just wanted to ask you a question, if you don't mind, Lori.
Yeah,
I wanted to know, remember we talked about JJ going to Kay's house? And you told me he went there, and now he's not there. I was wondering what happened.
Well, I had to move him somewhere else because of her actions. So,
Was she doing something? Like, was she trying to come get him or something? Or, like, trying to kidnap him?
well, she's said that multiple times before, but,
Okay. Well, when I asked Chad the other day, I was like, hey, where is JJ? And he said, for my security, he didn't want me to know. So is there a reason I should be in danger to know where he is?
no, it's nobody. It's his danger. It's the danger that there's people after me.
Okay.
So, if you knew, that puts you in a danger.
I was wondering why you told the police why he was with me.
I just needed to have somebody so I wouldn't have to tell them where he really was if they were going to tell Kay where he is.
Oh, yeah. So do you think it's like your family? Or, like your family, your dad, or, those people?
Family, well, not my whole family, but as you know, most of my family is working against me and with her, basically.
Yeah. Is JJ safe?
He is safe and happy. Darkness is knocking on the door all the time because that's the way dark works with the light. And I promise you that I have done nothing wrong in this case, but sometimes you have to hide in a cavity of a rock for your own life safety. And that's what the Lord requires of you, sometimes. And that's how it is. And I'm sorry that's how it is, because there is a lot of darkness on the earth. You're being controversial to me, or if you're recording this conversation for the police or whatever, I don't know what your intention is on this phone call.
Well,
but I love with all my heart, and I have forever, and I will always love you.
I appreciate those words, but if you really loved me, you wouldn't have told the police that I had JJ with me. That's not what a friend does. That just makes it look weird, and it's not safe for me. That doesn't look good. You had to think of my welfare if you love me.
I do, and I did exactly what I felt the Lord was instructing me to do. And I appreciate you, and I love you. And I've never do anything to harm you, and you can have all of this confirmed to you by the Lord.
I have. And my conscience is clear. I feel very understanding what's really going on, Lori. And I believe that you have been very deceived by Satan. I believe that he has tricked you. And I don't believe that what you're doing is correct. I just don't. I mean, Tammy dies, and then your husband died, and then he's missing. It just doesn't sound like God's plan to me. It just sounds. It gives me a gut feeling. Like in my gut, it feels weird. It doesn't feel right. I don't have peace about it. I never have felt 100% peace about it. I always felt like a little weird in my stomach about all these things.
You know me, Mel. You know me. This does not sound like you. This sounds like you've been influenced by somebody dark who wants you to believe dark things and have fear of the celestial world.
Let's recap. Chad's wife dies. Lori's former husband, Charles Vallow, who I haven't mentioned yet, he's shot to death by her brother, Alex Cox, out in Arizona in July 2019, too. So that's another dead body. Now her kids are missing. And this is how she's talking? Evasive, shrouded in religious connotations. And of course, we know JJ was not safe and happy. Now let's talk about Charles Vallow for a second. Lori is separately charged in Arizona with conspiracy to commit murder in the death of Charles Vallow. Originally, it was deemed that Alex shot Charles in self-defense, but as we can see, authorities now think that this was murder. And evidence of his death is coming into this trial basically to show a common scheme or pattern that whenever anyone gets in Lori and Chad's way, whenever they deem someone a dark force, or when someone gets in the way of Chad and Lori's relationship, or when they want money, Lori and Chad kill. The death of Charles Vallow is tied in to the death of JJ and Tylee in a way. So Chandler Police Detective Nathan Duncan comes on, and he takes the stand and he starts reading text messages between Chad and Lori. This one is from 7 days after Charles is killed.
Lori to Chad. I just got the letter from the insurance company saying that I am not the beneficiary. It's a spear through my heart. Who do you think he changed it to? Brandon or probably Kay? He left nothing for JJ. On 7/18/2019 at 12:19 hours. Lori sent Chad a message. So I talked to the insurance company. He changed it in March. So it was probably Ned before we got rid of him. They can't tell me to who, of course, but it's done. I'll still get the $4,000 a month from SS.
Now, Ned is what Lori referred to as the demonic force within Charles. She had previously tried to cast out that dark spirit, but chilling words to use right after he's killed, and it seems the financial motive is on full display here as well. Kill Charles, become the beneficiary, and her shock when she found out that she wasn't. By the way, these text messages are really interesting. I'll give you another example. Lori sends her brother Alex a message on July 9th, 2019. This is 2 days before Charles is killed by Alex. And it says, quote, again, this is from Lori, going to need you to stay close. Lots to do. Thank you for standing by me. It's all coming to a head this week. Another message from Chad to Lori on July 26, 2019, 3 months or so before Tammy dies. Chad expresses his frustration with his family life, but ends the message with, quote, I sense permanent freedom is coming. So it's these messages that seem to suggest a foreshadowing of death that is very chilling, and that Lori was right there the whole time. Now we have to talk about Zulema Pastenas. So I've talked a lot about these strange teachings and beliefs, and she's talked about that as well. This was the woman who was married to Lori's brother, Alex Cox, for only 2 weeks before he died. Now, reports are that he died from natural causes. There was reporting that he had blood clots in his system. But again, the timing of his death is so strange. And without him here, Zulema, if you believe her, is almost the voice of Alex Cox. But before we even get to that, here is another monumental state witness like Melanie Gibb, who, if the jury believes her testimony, and the defense certainly tried to pick apart her credibility and honed in on some of her outlandish beliefs, if the jury believes her, her testimony is tying Lori to the deaths of these 3 people. First, listen to what Lori allegedly told Zulema about JJ.
Did Lori ever talk to you, or Lori and Chad ever talk to you about how long they expected JJ to live?
Lori had said that he was going to have a very short life. And then in a meeting that we had at Lori's house in early August
Of 2019?
2019, he said that JJ was going to have a very short life, that he was going to, the reason why he was going to live a short life was because he was going to come right back as Colby's child.
Again, another example of an eerie comment foreshadowing the upcoming death of a person. Now let's move on to Tammy Daybell, Chad's wife, who suddenly died out of nowhere. Prosecutors saying it was from asphyxiation, even though at the time it was ruled natural causes. So she dies. Lori and Chad get married 2 weeks later. Prosecutors charge Lori with conspiracy to kill Tammy. The idea here that she was in the way of a relationship with Chad. Now, at one point, someone had actually tried to shoot at Tammy Daybell, okay? Listen to what Lori allegedly said to Zulema about Tammy on the night someone tried to shoot her, and then what happened when Lori received a phone call later that night.
You had learned that she had been shot at by someone.
Yes.
Okay. Were you ever present with Lori around that time that Tammy was shot at?
Yes, the same night. Lori told me that Tammy had been possessed by a demon, and that it was no longer her, kind of like the same thing that she had said about Charles, and that she needed my help casting out from her.
Okay. And did you guys do a casting on Tammy?
Yes. And then afterwards, she received a phone call from someone.
Okay. And was she near you when she got that phone call?
Yes.
Okay. What was her attitude and demeanor when she got that phone call?
She was very, very angry, scary angry.
Okay. And now this is the night that Tammy was shot at.
Correct?
Okay. So while she's on the phone, she appears angry and scary angry. Did you hear anything she said?
Yeah, she was using some very derogatory terms such as idiot, moron, and just being very, very angry with whoever she was on the phone with.
After she got off the phone, what did she say to you?
She said, idiot, can't do anything right by himself.
Okay, now, that certainly looks and helps the prosecution's case that Lori was instrumental in the conspiracy to kill Tammy Daybell. I mean, the language, the comments, the call. Is this all coincidence that this happens on the night someone tries to shoot Tammy? And again, here's another example of Lori saying something problematic after Tammy dies.
After you learned that Tammy died, did you talk to Lori about that situation with her and Chad? Now that Tammy's gone, what did Lori say was going to happen?
Well, she said that that Chad and her had received instructions and visitations from angels that had come and taught them how to cast out demons, and now they knew how to do it. And that is the reason why Tammy had passed away, because they were able to finally learn how to do casting of a demon.
If the jury believes this is damaging to Lori. And the evidence has supported the theory that the muscle, the person who does all the dirty work in these killings, is actually Alex Cox. In fact, here is what Alex allegedly told Zulema.
What is going on? What is happening? How come they're not here? You don't even know where they're at. We don't even know where they're at now.
When you say they, who are you talking about?
Lori and Chad. We don't know where Lori and Chad are at. What is happening?
And what reaction did he have? Ultimately, what did he say?
He was very quiet and unresponsive, and then he said, I think I'm being their fall guy.
Okay.
Meaning.
Okay. And what did you say?
I said, a fall guy for what? What is it that you have done? What have you done that you would be the fall guy for. It was like I kept pressuring him, and I was so frustrated because he wasn't answering me. So I would walk away, and he would say something, and then I would come back, and then I would pressure him again, and then he said, one of the times when I was walking away from him, he said, Zulema, either I am a man of God or I am not.
And then he dies the next day. So if taken as true, and yes, this is her recollection of what he said, but if taken as true, they are talking about Tammy Daybell's death, and he said that he is their fall guy, not Chad's, but their fall guy, meaning Lori is as much a part of this as Chad. So as we wrap off week 1, I want to leave you with one more, what I believe is a damaging piece of evidence, and that is a phone call. So while Lori is in jail on charges related to not turning over the kids when they were missing, she calls Chad, her husband, and it's recorded. And this call occurs when authorities are searching Chad's property. So remember, the kids aren't found yet. Listen to this exchange.
Hello?
Are you okay?
No, they're searching the property.
The house right now?
Yeah. One of them is. So, Mark means we'll be talking to you.
Okay. What, are they in the house?
No, they're out in the property.
Are they seizing stuff? Again?
They're searching to see what transpires.
Okay. What can I do for you?
I'm feeling pretty calm.
I feel pretty calm. Are they seizing stuff again? They're searching the property. No surprise at what is happening at all by either of them. And remember, this trial is about Lori. Why is she not saying, well, what are they searching for? What's going on? Where are the kids? This all goes towards, once again, knowledge. But is knowledge enough? As I mentioned, the prosecution is building a circumstantial evidence case against Lori Vallow Daybell. But to be clear, everything I laid out, in my opinion, I think is some of the most damaging testimony and evidence presented in court. But that doesn't mean that there's enough to convict beyond a reasonable doubt. The prosecution has to connect Lori to these deaths, and that's no simple task. They have to show she conspired to murder, that there was an agreement, someone took overt steps in furtherance of that agreement. They have to show that she murdered the kids, maybe not physically, but that she aided and abetted, advised, encouraged, compelled. Now, we're still in the early parts of this trial, so let's see what happens next. And that's all we have for you here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.